Hello YouTube friends, I'm back with part 2 of my little mat making video, and I've dyed all the fabric. I'll show you those in a second. I just want to say thank you to everybody who watched part 1 and left such interesting comments and questions below that video. If this is the first video you're seeing, I'm going to leave a card here to part 1 because that's all the preparation and all the dyeing of the fabrics. Now, I'll say straight away about this is I'm winging this project. I always say that. I'm not an expert at this at all. There are loads of people out there who do this much better than me and correctly. But I wing it and I get a result I like, and for me that kind of works. So to start with, dyeing the fabric last time, and I had my jam jars that I put my dyes in. Now, the pink dye that I used was an acid dye, which works best with vinegar. So for some strange reason, best only known to myself, I put vinegar in the other two as well, whereas really I should have put salt in, because salt helps to fix the dye. There's the first bit of winging it. And then I dipped the dye, you saw if you watched that video, it's a pot I use just for that purpose. It's an old jam pan, and I use it just for dyeing because I do a fair bit of dyeing in the summer mostly because it's all drippy outside. I explained that, but I want to show you the colours that I got. They weren't what I was expecting, but I really like them. So here they all are, dry now, and so all this big range of greens here, and then, sorry Norma. This was the disco pink, this top one, and then these pinks here, or not even pinks, look at them. Some of them are really kind of earthy tones. My son saw this and he said it reminded him of a hedgerow in autumn. I thought that was actually a pretty accurate description with the berry colours and all of that. So this is the range that I got here, and I'm really pleased with it. And I watched that video back a couple of days ago, and I thought, why am I not telling them what I'm making? I was a proper tease, wasn't I? I'm going to tell you what I'm making now. There was a lovely couple of people suggested, are you making a mat for the cats to sleep on the windowsill? What a brilliant idea. I'm not, but there's probably too much fabric here for what I'm making. So if I finish this project and there's loads left and I can find the right size piece of hessian, I'm going to make a mat for the windowsill for the cats to sleep on. What a great idea that is. I like that idea. Thank you. So here they all are then. And what I'm making is, I'm making a draft excluder for the kitchen door. If you look at this little film I just took, you can see just how big the gap is between the door and the floor. And the wind whistles through there. And so sometimes I put up a rolled up old towel there. And sometimes I just let the wind whistle through. We're going to make a draft excluder. It's going to be at least 32 inches wide, but I might make it wider because there's space on either side of the door so that drafts can't creep round. And also this process, when you're making it, it does shrink a little bit. And so you should make things over big, because then when you take them off the frame, they do shrink down. I've learned to my, that's happened to me a couple of times. So it needs to be a minimum of 32, 33 inches wide. And then I'm going to work out what kind of circumference it needs to be, basically just by doing that. So that's 13 inches. What's 14 inches? That's 14 inches. Can you see? So it's just a sausage to go along the bottom of the door. You can get stuff that you screw on. In fact, I have a memory of the door having that. I have no idea what happened to that. You know, sort of the solution that if you went to a do-it-yourself shop, you could screw that on the door. How boring is that? So we're going to do, let's say if we do 15 inches wide, that'll be a nice big one. Because then if it's too big this way, I've got to wonder about how to stuff it, haven't I? Yes, I have. And so, but bearing in mind that it will shrink as it comes off the frame, I'll mark it out. But for now, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cut these up. and talk to you about the type of mat that I'm going to make. Now, I talked a little bit last week, didn't I, about, I did confuse quite a lot of people by using that word proggy. It's a northeastern word that I know from when I was taught this by my teacher, Ali, and Rachel, my two really good friends who make this fantastic art form, beautiful work they make. And it's proggy mats, as far as I've always been aware. But proddy works just as well for this form that I'm doing. So the next thing I need to do then is cut this fabric. Now, I haven't decided what kind of pattern to do. I haven't, I had an idea that I might just mix all of these fantastic colours once I've cut them all together and then just do an all over kind of salt and pepper kind of look to it. I think I might do that, because if I try to make a pattern in the round, it's going to come out wrong, isn't it? You know, the lines won't meet up, or I could make it stripy, but I feel like I'd like to make more of a salt and pepper type thing. A few years ago, my nephew and his family, they used to visit a fair bit before COVID, and I must have been making the big mat in the sitting room, or have finished it, and they were very inspired to make a mat. So they would bring their mat frame when they visited, and we would set it up, and they had dyed all this fantastic wool blanket in all the colours. So you're looking at pictures now of that mat frame, and that's very much an all over mix all the pieces up, pick them up and just put them in randomly, and the result was lovely, absolutely lovely. And so and it's a really good thing to do with a family, with a group of friends, because the frame's really big, people can sit all the way around it and everyone can have a little go. So those were my nephew's and his wife and their family's beautiful rug that they made. So I'm going to bring you in overhead then, and I'm going to show you how I cut. It's not really traditional to cut it with a rotary cutter. People would sit with their scissors and cut them as they needed them, but I'm going to cut them with a rotary cutter because it does make it quicker. This wool blanket is woven with the weft and warp like so, and it hasn't really got one stretchy area. That, of course, is the bias, like with all fabric that's woven. And so I'm going to be careful not to cut anything across the ways, because I want this to have the structure of the weave. So here I am cutting it speeded up. It took me a couple of hours to do all the pieces. And when I cut the 3.5 inches or so, if the piece wasn't quite wide enough, I just cut strips like that on the green there, and then cut these into the sort of 3.5 inch approximately strips. So nothing at all is wasted. And all goes into the mix. So here's this other lovely tealy green. And here we go again, cutting them really fast. It does make short work of it, the rotary cutter. It really does. And then they all go into the basket. I'm going to mark up the shape that I want now, and I've measured it earlier, and didn't I say that we needed it about 33 inches, and this is 41 inches, so that's perfect. But then how wide are we going to have it? I think, how wide is this? This is 15 inches, so I'm going to do it 14 inches then, okay? So I'm going to mark this up now, and it's going to be, what did we say, 38 inches. So that's there. There. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit too big. And then here we need it to be, oops a daisy, we need it to be, let's say 14 inches. Go on, we'll say 14 inches, that's good. So I've marked out the hessian and I've got my basket full of clips here, and so what I'll do is I'll just take a few out. What I might do is tip all of these out into a big pile, mix them up and put them back in again, but not for now. I'll just take a few out like this. So let's just take a few different ones out. That'll do for now. So with these few clips from my basket here, I want to bring the camera down so that you can see exactly how it is I'm putting these clips in. They look nice, don't they? I'm pleased with them. It's my tool, and I'm going to angle you down and talk to you while I do this first few pieces on my draft excluder. It's a lot of effort to go to for a draft excluder, isn't it? Yes, it does seem that way. So here we are then, let's get this comfortable. Here's my line here, my corner. And when you're working a piece like this, which is going to be made with clips, these are clips, you work it from the back. So this will be the back of the piece and the front of the piece will be underneath here. And so quite simply, I'm going to bring you in even closer, like that, so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I think I've brought you really, really close in now so that you can see there's our beginning line here, and there's a little handful of my lovely clips, just a handful. Now, it doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to start here because this is where you can see even closer in. There now. So I'm going to make a hole with my tool. And I'm going to get one of the clips here and poke it down and then hold it from the other side until it feels like it's about halfway. You get to know that pretty quickly. Then I'm going to count, maybe not obsessively, but like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 holes to one side. And I'm going to poke the other end of the clip down there. And I can feel from the other side that they're even. And there's my first one in. Now, you can go into the same hole or even just one thread the other side of it. Pick up any clip at all. Down it goes. And when you've got enough of these clips in, make the hole. Poke that back down again. They hold each other in place. This is the back of the rug, remember? And you do get quite quick at this, which is why you can do it while you're watching the television. That big mat that I made in the sitting room, the floor mat there, I watched the whole of Wimbledon one year with it. And when it got to an exciting bit, I just stopped and watched, you know, that point, and then it was great. So there's a little bit too big of a gap there. That was a mistake. But if that's the case, you can just pull it out and do that bit again, because I think I just did that a bit too far apart. Now, I can see the camera wobbling on this frame. So now that you've seen me put those first 4 in, I'm going to put you back a bit more safely and then just carry on and do this row. And with them being random like that, you can just pick them up from anywhere. You almost don't even have to look. The only rule I have is that I don't put 2 together that are the same. That's it. That's what I'm doing. And with me having a lot of greens and a lot of sort of pinky purples, I'll just make sure that they are well distributed. Like that. So there's the first 6 in. It's not hard, is it? And I'm away. Off I go. And once you get the rhythm going, it's absolutely lovely. You can just keep going and going for as long as you like. I don't think this one will take me too long to make because it's actually quite a small piece. So let me tell you a little bit about this tool that I'm using. This is a rivet from the shipyards and the northeast coast, all around Wallsend and North Shields and all those areas, all the docks and all the shipyards around there. It was a big shipbuilding industry back in the day. And so riveters would have been one of the trades in the shipyards. And these things would have been lying around all over the place. Not like this, because whoever took this one has milled it down a bit until there was a nice, it's a beautiful shape here. It's not sharp, it's just sharp enough or just pokey enough to do what I need it to do, which is make a hole. I'm going really quite deep down here so that it makes a gap for me to put my pieces into, so that I pick up the other end of that and poke it in like so. Yes, and so this rivet then, they're all different sorts of tools, but this one fits into my hand really nicely and I like it a lot. And in the comments on the last video, lots of people were saying that the miners, or in this case the shipyard workers, the men would have done this as well. In fact, the whole family would have done this, just like I was showing you those pictures of Anthony, Anthony's rug, my nephew. The whole family could sit round this, because this is a big frame. It's, you know, 6 foot. So you could have 2 people on this side and 2 people on that side easily working away at it. And when I was straining this up, I didn't wrap it round these bars here because I can reach the whole of the piece of work from where I'm sitting. But if this had been a big hearth rug, I would have wrapped it round. I said that, I think. So here we go then. Let's just keep going. One of the questions was, can you vacuum this? Because are the clips in firm enough that they're not going to fall out? And they absolutely are. The action of putting one in next to the other means that they stay in there really, really well. I've never had clips come out of any rugs that I've made. They've always stayed in beautifully. So that big rug of mine in the sitting room, I can vacuum it with the vacuum cleaner anytime. And then in the summertime, when not now and when it's wet and horrible and cold, but in the spring I will take it outside and put it over a couple of trestles or over a couple of chairs, and then just beat it with a stick. Just like you would beat old rugs. And then if ever it needed washing, which it sometimes will in its life, then again you would wait for a lovely hot summer's day or a lovely hot summer's week and take it outside and give it a good wash with just soapy water. I'm guessing, you know, washing detergent would do it. Wash the whole thing really, really well from the front and from the back. Rinse and rinse it, probably with a hose pipe, and then just leave it on I would leave it on my big table outside for a few days. I remember when the kids had a trampoline, I used to use that for all sorts of drying fleeces or drying washed mats or anything like that. And that means that the whole thing can have a really good clean, because this is pure wool. These clips are wool. And so it's got a really good long life to it, which brings me on to another of the questions. If you haven't got wool blanket, what else can you use? And I've made some rugs that are, or rather mats, that are just pictures. And if they're not going to go on the floor or be used in that in any practical way, then what you can do is you can use the stuff they make hoodies with, or jogging bottoms, that kind of stuff. What's that called? That stuff, you know, sort of like sweatshirt material. That's great. So you can use that. You can use woolen jumpers, but you would wash them in the washing machine first to get them a bit felted so that they wouldn't unravel. And the only thing that I don't like using is acrylic jumpers, because they stretch too much and they don't hold their shape. So I never liked using those. But in the olden days, when I made quite a few of these rugs, I used to go to jumble sales, which almost never happen now. And I would go to jumble sales and to try and find the right kind of fabrics. And so they would be old wool jumpers. It wouldn't matter if they had holes in or were a bit felted. They would be interesting colours of sweatshirts. So I remember I would go into a jumble sale and go to the clothing bit and just look straight away for colour, pull out whatever colour that was, and then secondarily look at what it was made from. Really important thing to remember about, like when I was cutting these, I was cutting it with the weave and not on the bias. Remember I showed you the bias? Now, when you're cutting something like a knitted jumper that's maybe it's thick enough, it's been felted slightly in the washing machine, then you must be very careful to which direction you cut it in. You must cut it with the knitting, not across the knitting, because the whole thing will just stretch differently. You try it, if ever you're going to do that, just cut two in two different directions and you'll see what I mean straight away. Okay, so I'm just going to have a lovely time. I've started here and gone to here, and that's because I'm filming. If I wasn't filming, I'd scoop my chair along here this way and finish one whole row. So I'm actually going to turn the camera off now and do a fair bit of this, and I'll get back to you when I've done loads, and I'll show you what it looks like from the back and also then from the front. I don't think we're going to have a finish in this video. I think this is definitely part 2 of 3, but I'll come back to you and show you how much I've managed to do when the camera's off and I can move about a bit more easily. Okay, see you in a minute. I think this is going to be quite a good idea. I'm going to tip everything into this big plastic box, which will give me more room to mix it. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do this. Just mix all these colours up. That's easier. Glad I thought of that. So I've mixed up, that was a better idea, mixing them all up in a big box. And now I've got my clips here and my frame, and I'm going to start at this corner and meet up with the bit I've just done. And you know, I'm reminded why I don't really do this much. It takes up so much room. I mean, portable, this task is not. So you have to have it set up in a good way, and I really haven't. I've just got it balanced over a couple of chairs. So I'll see if I can make, I'm going to do this now because I'm set up, but I'm going to see if I can set it up a little better after I've done this little bit here. So let's do this from this corner. There we go. It's so big. I'd forgotten just how big it is. I guess that's why I started making smaller things, because I've made a lot of small things in my time. Just little pictures like the one on the wall over there. So this is better to work now that I've mixed up all the clips in a big box there, and I've just got a handful out here. I've moved to this side and I'm going to carry on with this row and meet up with the bit that I did earlier on. But I haven't got it set up terribly well, and so I'm going to see if I can work out a better way to put it so I can work it more easily. So I've done one whole row there. When I got to the bit where I met up there, it's really easy. You just have to you can make the hole with this tapered tool. You can make it quite small, but you can make it really quite big. But then that hole just closes back up around the fabric and holds it all in place. So I'm just going to keep going in rows now. I'm very much liking this colour. I keep saying that, don't I? But it's true, I do.